Hello, my name is Andy and I am the Village Idiot. I'm armed with a car and a GoPro and an unhealthy amount of time on my hands. I'm using that time to attempt to visit every civil parish in England. You're watching the Harrogate series. Harrogate is a large borough, one of the 11 districts of North Yorkshire. It's got 139 civil parishes. Which one are we in this episode? Welcome back to Harrogate, everybody, and that means uttering what's becoming a Harrogate catchphrase once again. It's drab, it's dreary, it's misty and it's foggy, but I am still in good spirits. Now I'm starting this episode outside these gates here. Now behind those gates there's a park and we're actually on a parish boundary here. If I turn the camera around, you'll be able to see a housing estate. There you go. Now most people in this part of Knaresborough know this as the name of today's parish, but actually the parish boundaries don't cover that. They cover this park and the old village to the north of it. Welcome to Scriven. Here's my disclaimer for people who may be watching me for the first time. I say things as I would in my native accent and dialect. As a result, I may not pronounce things in the same way as the locals do. Remember, I'm a visitor. It's impossible to know everything. Leave me a comment, spin me a like and bash that subscribe button. Let's get to today's parish video. Scriven, Hollow Place. This week in Harrogate, we're right on the edge of Knaresborough. In fact, we're touching the town. This is Scriven, possibly one of the most important villages we've come across so far in North Yorkshire. Its name means hollow place, a reference to quarrying, which once occurred nearby. This was the seat of the Slingsby family and it was the centre of the Slingsby Estate. The family lived at Scriven Hall, which no longer exists. The hall was built for Sir Thomas Slingsby, the second but oldest surviving son of Sir Henry, who was executed in 1658 for his adherence to the Royalist cause during the English Civil War. Sir Thomas was appointed High Sheriff of Yorkshire when the British monarchy was restored by Charles II in 1660. Certain parts of the estate are very much a part of life here. The one that sticks out the most would be Jacob Smith Park, 30 acres of the hall's former parkland, now open to the public. Scriven was originally part of a much bigger parish named Scriven with Tentergate. Due to a boundary change though, Tentergate is no longer a part of this one and now forms part of Knaresborough. The piece that's left, renamed simply Scriven, covers the old village, Jacob Smith Park and most of Knaresborough Golf Club. So, let's go and see what all that's like, shall we? Welcome to Scriven. Our start point is a park, 30 acres of former parkland that was left to the village in 2006 and officially opened in 2008. The parkland once belonged to Scriven Hall, which was the seat of the Slingsby family and the centre of their estate. The original hall no longer exists. In 1965, when the estate was broken up and sold off, the two ladies on this information board bought the park. They are Dorothy and Winifred Jacob Smith, and they would use it to graze their prize-winning herd of Ayrshire cattle. Their father, Jacob, was a farmer, and he ran Park Corner Farm with his girl's help. Winifred would go on to be the organising secretary for the Women's Land Army and earned an MBE. Her diaries form part of a permanent display in the Yorkshire Farming Museum. Upon her death in 2006, the park was left to the community. It's a mixture of woodland, grassland, meadows, wetlands and ponds, today all enjoyed by the locals and the wildlife alike. In 2012, the park made the headlines after a 200-year-old oak tree fell, revealing a nest of 6,000 honeybees. Now, what with all the rain and the inclement weather we've had just recently, the park is as wet and muddy and boggy as I thought it was going to be, which is why I've got the boots on. So for that reason, I'm not terribly bothered about going too far into it, because to be fair, it's just a case of seeing what you've already seen in those last few shots all the way through, and this mist certainly doesn't help. However, we may not be done totally with Jacob Smith Park just yet, because at the end of this walking route there may be a little shortcut I can take back into the park to bring me back to the start. It's a bit of an unknown quantity at the moment. I'm not sure if the path I've looked at is actually a public footpath or maybe even a permissive footpath. I don't know yet until I get there. I couldn't quite see it on the map when I planned the route. So we'll head through the village and we'll see if it is, and if it is, we'll come back that way. Otherwise, we'll just have to stick to the road. So let's go and explore Scriven village. As well as the park, the parish covers the old Scriven village. The boundary doesn't cover these streets you can see on your screens now, because it runs right down the middle of Scriven Road. Despite that, the locals refer to all of this as Scriven. Effectively, everything on the other side of the boundary could be termed New Scriven, I guess, given that the village we're heading for is Old Scriven. Everything north of Greengate Lane is also within the boundaries, as is Park Corner Fold, built on the site of Park Corner Farm. Park Corner Farmhouse still stands. It's this house you can see in your shot now. Although situated on the edge of Knaresborough, the village maintains a very independent and rural identity. Its close proximity to the town means that a church was never built here, but there were originally 4 inns. It's not hard to see where the locals' priorities were. There are 16 listed buildings in the village and many others of historical interest. The majority of the village is now covered by the Scriven Conservation Area, including the massive village green. This house on your screens now is called Roundels Manor, sometimes known locally as Randall Manor. It's one of the listed buildings that encircle the green. Also listed is this shelter. This looks like it's some sort of bus stop, and to be fair, Scriven is served by a bus or two. However, it is in fact the War Memorial. Some call it the Scriven Shrine. It memorialises all those killed or missing in both of the 2 world wars. On its wall is a parish notice board. Tick off Scriven, everybody. TVI has officially made its mark on this part of Knaresborough. After the War Memorial, the road, Market Flat Lane, starts to run off towards the hamlet of Lingerfield. Oddly, none of Scriven's listed buildings can be found up there, even though some look like they should be. Never fear though, there are still plenty around the green. A good example would be this 3-storey mid to late 18th century effort, Pear Tree Cottage. It's one of 3 houses in a line which all face the trees on the green. You might have noticed them already, but let's take a close look at those, shall we? Protected by railings, these are a Scriven symbol, literally. You may have noticed the logo on the parish notice board was a tree. The locals use these as Christmas trees. Look closely and you can see strings of lights. Facing the green on the other side is Scriven's oldest building, Home Farmhouse, timber framed and dating from the late 16th century. Of course, it's a listed building. Like many other villages, Scriven had trades. This house, again listed, was an old wheelwright's. The former blacksmith's forge is next door. The remainder of the dead-end road afterwards consists of big, and I mean huge, properties, probably all worth a heck of a lot of money. A lot of them are set back from the road down private driveways, so there's no telling exactly how grand some of these are. At the end of the road is Scriven Hall. Now, as we already know, the original Scriven Hall no longer stands. It was destroyed by a fire in the 1950s and torn down. This was formerly the coach house, and it was turned into a normal property in 1966. It's the only building left standing today with ties to the original Scriven Hall. Okay, so we've arrived at the point where I was unable to see any further on the map as to whether or not I could get back to Jacob Smith Park from here. And it appears the answer is no, because as you can see, there's a gate here at the end of the road, and that over there says private, no public right of way. I wouldn't want to go down there anyway, because the route I was looking at was actually over this field. There's a little path over there behind that shed, and that's what I was looking at. I thought that led to that field and then into the park, which is over there in the mist somewhere. But this gate is locked, and that is a fence at the end and not a gate, so it clearly isn't a right of way, and I can't get back into the park from here, which is all right, to be fair, because I mean, if it's private property, I do not want to be trespassing, obviously. So this is as far as we can go then. This is the end of the road, literally. The park is over there, but to get back to it, I'm gonna have to go back via the road. So back we go, this way. And after walking back to the car, I was done with another one in Harrogate. Using Market Flat Lane, I set off towards the next one. Next week, we'll be discussing Harrogate's connection to an infamous plot, the anniversary of which is celebrated every November with fireworks and bonfires. Now, what could that be? See you later. Thanks for watching this video, folks. Don't forget to like this episode if you haven't already. It really makes a difference with YouTube. If you're new here, subscribe to the channel for more videos like this, and give us a share too if you've got friends who'd like it. You can find all the links to my social media accounts below, as well as my Buy Me a Coffee page where you can donate to the channel. Also, if you've enjoyed this episode, have a look at some more videos in this series. Until next time, I've been Andy, also known as the Village Idiot, and I'm out.